Clark, mayambe, nanguluka nyo am, Max, Mapinti, Akabu Direx, wala kuluka nyo am, Matalo Pala, Direx Mapinti, Orange naman, Likasu, Hip-Hop League, Shampopo, Shambisi, oh, it was fire!
I was having a field day on our Twitter feed, sending out stuff on Monday morning. The culmination of that episode for me, probably the most emotional point out of all of it was Bongi at the end.
Yeah, just before we get on to that, I'd just like to mention that second half itself of the England game, because you were there in the stadium with the cuck weather and your boy with you.
Mm.
It took me straight back to where I was watching. I was watching it with my daughter, who was sick. She had a sick ball next to her, and the clock was ticking, and I clearly remember it getting to about 65, 67 minutes. I think with 9 points down, thinking, that's it. We're done. I think we're done. And at the point where the scrum was awarded at about 70, I think it was about 70 minutes, we got a scrum on the halfway line. And it was at that point there that everything had to be exact and precise. Scrums, kicks, lineouts, kicks, conversions, etc. Everything had to be exactly 100% precise for the Springboks to win. Any mistakes, we'd have gone out.
Yeah, the try and the kick. Yep.
So,
how's the causer commentary? Brilliant. Ragnar, son of the Viking, Sneyman. I was
that
laughing.
chap Farrell.
Yeah, that chap Farrell kicks it again. There was some brilliant thing. And when Okes came on for that first scrum, I remember I was sitting there thinking, we're in trouble here. The only way we can win this is by getting penalties and kicking over. Yeah. And I was thinking to myself, bring Okes on, because he had created carnage through that World Cup. He was getting better. Man, they were showing you close-ups. What he did to Carl Sinclair, that's career-ending stuff. I mean,
he's a bar fridge, isn't he?
Yeah. And but just when he explained, because we spoke about it, that the one where Curtly Orenson knocked on, and then there was the scrum, and he went backwards in that scrum, and it was very noticeable that he went backwards in that scrum.
He took the
hit, and then he went forward, and then I thought to myself, that shows you how strong this guy is, but I didn't know what he spoke. Obviously he explained. He said no. He was scared that they were going to be soft on the hits, and then it looks like they're overextending and they get the penalty. So he's going to let him come in, apply all his pressure, think he's on top, and then I'm going to buckle him. You've got to be strong to do that. Carl Sinclair's no mug, and he's built like another bar fridge himself. So yeah, credit to Okes. So. And such likable characters. I loved it when they said, you pick a scrum and now you think you can scrum, but you've got to scrum against us.
Absolutely.
Lay it down. So, yeah, I enjoyed it because we were getting those answers that we wanted behind the scenes.
And the final scrum and the final kick from Pollard, which again, you see him 50 meters out in those conditions, and he's nailed it through the middle. He almost looks as if he's going to fall over at one point. But and when the whistle goes, because it's not over after the kick, of course, they've got to be disciplined in defence to keep England out. But when that whistle went, it took me right back, and the relief and the emotions came rushing up, and it was pure relief. And geez, more so than celebratory. Oh.
Well, it was brilliant because they talked about that when they have to defend and how you defend. And when England got the ball after the kickoff, after we slotted the penalty, they must have gone back 30, 40 meters before they knocked on. So we did it against France as well, where we were defending in those last few minutes. The discipline that takes for a rugby team, how stupid forwards are. They, you're tired, you get caught off. And he was just none of that. They were primed to be good at that. They practiced it. I think to your point earlier, the amount of planning and kind of scrupulous thinking that had gone into that to get it right was brilliant. So they defended well. And now I was getting all welled up, watching this And then Bongi went into the change room, and that was me done.
Yeah, that was I wondered what was happening at first.
I had tears rolling down my face. I didn't know whether it was relief, just being proud of that guy, or just seeing somebody that's like such a hero. And wow, the relief for him.
That's
Incredible.
what came across as a hero and a legend. But yeah, to see him just go into the change rooms on his own and stop sobbing, with Rusty shouting after him, going, "You're an effing legend. You're what? You're a champion. A proper captain. That's what captains do, etc." And then he gives him a hug. It was at that point when he gave him a hug, I couldn't control myself anymore. But you can kind of get, can't you, the outpouring of all that pressure and stress and intensity. It's got to come out somehow. And
No, it was brilliant. One of the points I want to just ask you, what did you make of the Eben, Sia, and Dwayne situation, with them kind of wanting different things to be done on the pitch? I suppose it's that natural alpha male dominating type thing. And his solution was to drop all three of them and put them in a room for 15 minutes.
I love it.
Like kids.
Love it.
Treat everybody like they're not. You're talking about guys that are earning 20 million rand a season.
Yeah.
Hey? And you tell them, listen, you go sit in the fucking room like a good boy, and you talk to each other, and you sort yourselves out.
Absolutely.
And then they all say, can't believe I could potentially not be in the team. Do I think I'm too big for the team? I need to sort this out. Incredible.
You can't. None of them must have felt secure with their position going game to game.
Well, do you know, we didn't speak last week, but that was potentially the most interesting thing that Rusty said for me. Before the selection for the game against France, remember they left that France selection late, and then the French team announced their team. But he was saying they were saying, oh, they're going to analyze our team. And he turned and he said to Jock, he said, what are you talking about? They're going to analyze our team. We've never picked the same team. What are they going to analyze?
Absolutely.
What are they going to analyze? He said, and then you and I were laughing. We're like, hey, Jedi mind fucked them there, because they went and announced the 6-2, and then he called a 5-3. You recall, we put out a 5-3. So it was so interesting, like all of that helter-skelter selection policy, that was clearly well thought out, but also in the end created, it's very difficult because the team changed so much. You and I, we got close, I think, once to a team. Otherwise, we were 6-7 out at a time on starting. And it worked.
Absolutely. You see the strategy now, don't you? But gosh, the margins are so small.
I think there's a movie in there somewhere, or maybe a 5-part series.
Yeah. And just another shout out to Moni Lebok as well, who he had a dreadful, he wasn't playing very well that day against England, and was pulled off.
Nobody was.
No, he's pulled off but he's such a key position, the fly half. So he was off. He was the first one off after about half an hour, I think. But to his credit, he's there saying, "Yep, I wasn't performing. It's all about the team." Because that must have. I remember talking to you at the time. They did the right thing, pulling him off. In my opinion, he shouldn't have started, but that's another debate. So he pulled off, and then didn't play any more rugby. Didn't play in the final at all. So, you can't help but feel sorry for him and wondering if there's some sort of legacy there. But it doesn't sound like it, the way he's talking and the way a lot of them talk about buying into this team ethos. Despite the disappointment.
It's very evident that none of them think they're bigger than the team. Which is quite interesting in these team setups and team environments with these people that are mega global superstars. It's humbling. You're watching Kirtley Orenser, who seems like such a nice guy, man. Was a butcher, and then he knocks on in that final, and you can just see when they interview him. This must have been last month or the month before that they've interviewed him, because it's this year. Because you see, Russie's got that sock on his arm after he had the burns, which is quite recent. And Curtly Orange has got his head down saying, I've let the team down, we're going out. And then they cross to Okes, and he's like, I knew I wasn't going to do any conversions, but I was there to do my job. And Curtly Orange is saying, I just had to look at the forwards, and I was like, please, guys, please get me out of this. And that's actually where Okes gave it to Carl Sinclair, didn't he? The poor guy. That was probably one of the best scrumming displays I've ever seen in my life in bad conditions. Because you got to remember that was a wet pitch.
When it needed to be. Oh. It's last chance saloon.
We didn't have a big pack on at that stage. We were carrying both Kwagga and Dion Fourie. And it was Snyman and Mostert. Yep. So Mostert's not a heavy guy, 108 maybe. So you've got Kwagga that's under 100. You've got Dion Fourie that's under 100. That's not a big pack. That's a strong pack with good props that know how to scrum well.
Look, it's a wonderful episode. Can't wait for the final, because we were both at the final, of course.
Yeah.
And really looking forward to that. Just for the listeners and viewers out there, if you still haven't seen this wonderful service, send us an email. A&E Rugby pod@gmail.com, and we'll see what we can do. The email will be down below in the titles.
Right. How's it, dogs? By now, I'm sure most of you have watched episode 4 of Chasing the Sun, and right. Honest to God, that was emotional. It was eye-opening. It was deep, very, very deep. I mean, I think we can all agree the episode in Chasing the Sun 1, where Rassi was talking about Mampimpi and his story, and to this day I still cry when I see that. But watching this episode, what these players go through cannot be underestimated. The level of sacrifice that they do, they give, and not just at a physical level, on an emotional level. What they go through, the levels of ups and downs, the highs and lows, the intensity, the training, the family, the ups and downs. I mean, Vali's story with the injury. I mean, Eben getting sent off. I mean, Curtly Orange with a knock-on. What highlights to me there is just the sheer planning and understanding of roles, and how the in-depth level of trust and understanding these guys have between them, and not just the players. I'm talking about the backroom staff as well. There's the scene where the 8 coaches are sitting and deciding on who will represent the team against England. Well, there's 8 people making a decision for 68 million people. We say the players have pressure, the coaches have pressure too, and we need to take into account them as human beings and the human impact that all of this has. I mean, there's not someone that's going to tell me, a true South African supporter who watched this didn't feel the emotion, feel the tension, feel the vibes that was coming from that France game. I mean, as long as I live, those memories will stick with me forever. It was an amazing game, one of the best games of rugby. It ebbed and flowed all the time. But the sheer connection that those South African players have with themselves and their coaching staff and the backroom staff as well is phenomenal. The level of trust, the level of belief that they have in each other as a team, it's phenomenal. I mean, we sat and see the likes of Peter Steph du Toit getting up, and his rant was now put into context. We got in context about why he got up and said that, And Rassie admits, I don't need to say shit because Pieter-Steph du Toit has just spoken. Rassie, get in your box. And you can take it any way you want, but that corner kind of changed the vibe. And the coaches then did their physical changes, which then impacted the game. But it was Pieter-Steph du Toit who lit a fire under their asses at halftime against the England game. You've got to give credit to where credit is due with the coaches making the decision to pull Mani off as well. It was wet. It wasn't his style of play. It was a game that was more suited to a Pollard who's played for Northampton Saints in the wet. And boy, it's been wet this winter. But what really struck me was their level of belief in each other, their level of understanding of who they represent, what they represent, the straight talking, the honesty, the openness was something to behold. I mean, I sat and I thought back when I'm listening to the conversations that they have, and the sheer belief in what they represent and what they stand for makes me very proud to be a Springbok supporter. And then, of course, sitting and watching Bongi break down, and the only way he could process was to express himself the way he did, burst out crying. But we need to understand and accept how much of an emotional impact, the level of responsibility that these men have. And we praise them, we chastise them, but man, we have to really, really look and see the emotional impact that what us as supporters do carry on these guys. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I burst out crying. I could not control my own emotions for a number of minutes after watching that for the first time. I watched it 3 or 4 times now, and still the tears come. But what that does show me is the tribal nature of our sport, and belonging and having chosen to support and belong to this tribe, man, makes me really love where I come from.
Clark, Mayambe, nangu look on your arm. Marks, Mapinti, a cable direct. Well, I could look on your arm. Marcelo Polo, direct Mapinti. Oh, it's the man. Likasu, hip hop league, Shapopo, Shabizi. Oh, it was fire.